Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Mark Costas.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental 18 podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
Two perspectives, one mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Dental 18 podcast. I'm Kiera Dent here with Grady. Grady is Mark's intern, and I happen to be in Omaha, so I get to hang out with Grady. Grady, how are you?
I'm good. Ditching school this morning to come shadow. I'm excited.
I feel like I'm a bad influence on you, Grady. I feel like I convinced you to ditch school, and I know how hard dental school is, and yet I convinced you to ditch school and come with me, so, you know.
It's exciting, though.
What?
I mean, school, you can get bogged down, and coming out and being in the real world, it gives you a lot of energy, gets you excited.
You're remembering why you're actually there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I always want to know, though, is what class are you ditching?
Histology. That's a good one to ditch.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. So we're actually headed into an office today. I told Grady that I'd be out here and said, hey, if you want to see what consulting in office is, Grady is a first-year dental student at Creighton, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more, Grady, because this is also interesting for me. Tell us more about you.
So I did a master's program before I started dental school.
Okay.
And that's when I met Mark Costas. He came to speak at school, and I knew I was going to be able to get things done a little early and have time before I started dental school.
Yeah.
So I went up to him, had a pitch all lined up in my head.
I have heard this.
And I totally botched it. I got super nervous when I met him the first time.
As you should. He's Mark Costas.
Yeah, he's a big deal.
He is a big deal.
And I asked him if I could come down and work for him in Arizona for a couple months. And at first he was like, yeah, of course. I don't think he really thought I was going to follow up. And
Mark says yes pretty easily. So if you've got a decent pitch, nothing personal to Grady, I'm sure you're fantastic, but
it wasn't a 10 out of 10
I love
pitch.
that it was the he said yes and then you actually followed through. I love it.
Yeah, so I had to keep bothering him for a while. That was in the fall, and I ended up going down there in the spring around March. Mm-hmm. And then I stayed. The internship, I guess, formally ended around the summertime.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So that's when I got to meet a lot of the people that work with Mark. And I still write show notes for him. So that's one of the things I did when I was down there. And that's how we stayed in touch. Was just at the summit.
Yeah.
A week ago?
Yeah, you were there just a week ago. I know. Crazy. That went by real quick.
Yeah.
Here we are, Wednesday. But it was
back
fun.
In reality.
I know. Well, every time I see you, I go to events with Mark. I was in Kentucky and Grady's in Kentucky. I show up in Arizona, Grady's in Arizona. I'm like, aren't you a dental student?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Only sometimes. But it's fun. And Grady is one of my favorite people. He is that person who, behind the scenes, I feel like you make life very easy for people. So you look around, you see where you're needed, you see how you can make life simple. And honestly, everybody at DSI headquarters loves you. And I really feel you've got a great personality, but you're one of those people. And I think this is important for teams and for dentists to see, where can you be that person? How can you make the most impact? And just being behind the scenes, you make such a big difference, Grady. And I know everybody who knows you really appreciates you. So it's
fun. It's fun to be around. I feel like sometimes with being with Mark and all those guys that know dental so well, as a first year dental student, it's shoot, what do I have to bring to the table? What can I really do? So it makes you look hard. And a lot of times it's little things, you know, and it's not some silver bullet that's oh my God, this guy's so helpful, but just little things along the way is what provides value and what makes you useful, I think, every day. Yeah, for sure. And I think that goes to teams, when you can look around, when you can see what can, like you said, sometimes you're the new person at the office, look for those small areas that you can help out, look for the different things you can do. But I do love, Grady, that you said, I'm a first year dental student. What do I have to bring? Because dental students are my favorite. They are the ones, because I feel like... So naive still. No, I love to speak to them because you're right. There are things you have no idea about. And if we can impact them, that was one of my big missions was as Kiera Dent, I'm just Kiera Dent.
I'm not a dentist. I'm not scary. And let's talk about the things that you've always had questions about, or the things that you're too embarrassed to ask, or like, I had a dental student the other day that's like, Kiera, I don't know what KPI even stands for. And I'm like, don't worry, me neither. Like it was the hardest thing. I was like, Kiera's pretty incredible. Like I have no idea what this stands for. So I love the fact to be able to work with students and to help, because I feel like if you can get a passion and a fire for dentistry, you're going to impact so much more. So let's talk about, where do you want to be when you graduate? Like I know it's a little ways out, but where do you want to go?
I'm not sure. I have a few places in mind. Through DSSN, I've been able to look at a bunch of different demographics.
Sure. Smart.
So I have a few different areas, and I'm actually working on a mailer right now.
Of course you are.
Yep.
Get that 10 for 10 pitch on the mailer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I have an attempt in my bag now after going up to Marcasa, so I'll be a little more confident, hopefully.
Yeah.
But what do you think about new grads buying a practice right out of dental school? Because I feel like there's a lot of different opinions out there. Some people are totally like, dude, no way. Like, there's no way you can do that. You don't know what you don't know. But you also hear people kind of say, you're never going to know what you don't know.
Right, exactly.
So at some point you need to jump in. So what are your thoughts on that?
I have a pretty strong opinion on this, because I feel like, Grady, you're a first year dental student and you're already looking for, like, I'm going to send out mailers. I'm going to do these different things. That, to me, that person is one that's destined for ownership. So I would say, you with that personality, you're already thinking about it. So you're going to take dental school a lot differently than other people will. You're going to look for opportunities. Like if you can take your second, third, fourth year and treat them like residencies. So you will be doing as many E4D crowns as you can, or CEREC crowns, or whatever you can do. You're hungry for knowledge. You're going after it. That's the person that I say, just jump right in. So I'm not a one size fits all for dental students of should you buy a practice, should you not? But for people like you and people that are thinking about that, hands down, I would say rip the Band-Aid off, jump in. You're hanging around Mark Costas, you hang out with me, you're going to watch me go consult in office. So you're already grabbing so much information that you'll be, in my opinion, just fine. The students that maybe aren't as confident, or they're not looking for that information, or maybe it's fourth year and they're like, hey, I kind of want to buy a practice. Sure, go for it. You're welcome to. But I think the people that prepare themselves beforehand, knowing that's where they want to go, I see no problem with new grads doing it. And I really think you can, because you take school differently than other people do. I guarantee you're probably talking to all your professors, you're asking them questions, you're picking their brains, you're showing up at dental conferences. So all that information I say right now, you're pretty much doing a residency to prepare you for ownership before you even get there. And with that mindset, I think you'll be just fine. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to get in the clinic more and be able to really utilize Creighton. Like, one of the things I'm excited about with Creighton is that we don't have any residency programs.
Right, yeah.
So, rumor has it, I guess, the reputation is you get a ton of clinical experience. And I think that's something that'll allow jumping right into ownership.
I would agree. I would totally agree. Because the biggest things I feel with ownership, one, most new grads don't know anything about the front office, so that's the scary piece. But it's totally cool. We're good friends. I'll help you out, no problem. The other thing that they don't know is their clinical. So most patients want to do a one-stop shop. So the more that you can learn, endo, implants, Invisalign, even going to Botox, like anything you possibly can learn in school, just so you are more prepared with more tools in your belt is going to help you a lot. And then making sure that your clinical speed is fast and that you don't give painful injections. So like patients complain about injections. They complain about doctors who aren't thorough or don't have like their exams dialed in. They complain about that the procedure took so long, like in dental school. It's going to take you 4 hours to do one crown. It's totally fine. Get ready for those days.
Scheduled 3-4 hour appointments for this endo.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope you're excited to come back 7 times. It'll be fine. You're my first endo out of school. It's just fine. But I think those things, if you're cognitive, and a lot of my friends who are buying practices right out of school, I tell them, like, treat third and fourth year like residencies. Like, go crazy, don't compromise patient care, but try all those hard things. Try the things that maybe aren't your normal, like go after the molar endo that's hard. Go after the extractions. Learn all those things, because then you're going to be so much more prepared.
Yeah. So outside of clinical, what do you see new grads struggle with most that jump into ownership? Because I think the communication piece is something I'm pretty worried about. Because coming out as a young guy and then all of a sudden just being like, yep, I'm I'm the owner now. That obviously doesn't work, right? So, the ones that succeed, what do they do right, and what's different about people that kind of fumble this leadership aspect of it?
Sure, good question. I think getting an understanding of each job description. I was talking to an office manager yesterday, and the more you know about a position, and I talked to a dentist the other day, the more you know about their job positions, I think the more you can hold them accountable. Because I feel most doctors new out of school fumble with not even knowing what positions should be doing. You as a dentist know kind of what you're supposed to be doing, but do you actually know what your hygienist should be doing? Do you know what your dental assistant should be doing? Do you know what the scheduler is doing? Do you know what the biller? You don't, exactly. And so I think it's learning that piece. I feel the leadership piece comes down to when you don't know, it's a lot of it's really the front office pieces. I hope they're collecting money. I hope, but so much talking to Mark of what your number should be, what your benchmark should be. And so I think a lot of times the new grads struggle with, it's a lot of the setup of the practice. You know how to do dentistry, but it's necessarily the business piece that's the lacking piece. Like, how do I set up my NPIs? How do I get credentialed? How do I hold team meetings? How do I hire and fire? All those business pieces that are required, because when you own your own practice, you're not just a dentist, you're a business owner of a really big business. I think that is the leadership piece that they're lacking. And that's where I feel like I'm on this wave across the world to help dental students know, hey, this is what every position does. This is a resource for you. Like, what should I hold my office manager accountable to? What report should I be getting nightly? What should I even be looking at? Because if I were to say, like, go run your AR, you're like, I don't even know what that is or how to even run that.
Right.
Like,
and yeah, so if you're walking around like you know everything, right, and your team sees you fumble with that, that's obviously going to break a lot of trust. So there's got to be I'm guessing, a pretty fine dance between, like, look, I do know what I'm talking about, but there are these aspects that I have a ton to learn. So,
but I think even that humble attitude, teams get frustrated when doctors come in and act as if they know everything and that they're better than everybody else. That's that arrogant piece that
that's not going to work.
You're just going to rub your team wrong. Yeah. But I think you saying, hey, I actually don't even know these things. Like, can I sit down and learn with you? That humility piece, I love that mantra for teams, because then you're allowing your team members to tell you as well, hey,
making it okay to be wrong.
Exactly. And when you have that, and it's a learning environment, it's a growing environment that's safe and it's comfortable, I think that piece is there. And you're saying, even some doctors say, hey, I'm going to call Kiera because she knows this is her wheelhouse. It's not my wheelhouse. Like, let me find out. Or when they ask you a question, instead of fumbling through it, say, you know what? I really don't know. I used to do that with patients' treatment planning. It's okay to not know. You just have to own that and then get the answer and follow through. So I would tell patients when they say, oh, how much is this? Or can we do payment plans? I'm like, you know what? That is a great question. And I don't know. So you and I are going to find out together. Let me go check with somebody who knows more than I do. I'll be back with you. That doesn't lower or lose your credibility or lose your trust. You're stepping into that. You don't need to know everything.
Yeah. Well, and no one's gonna, right? So it almost makes you easier to trust you, right? Because you're not pretending at that point.
Right, exactly. But I think also, this is a chat to the doctors. I think a lot of you know more than you give yourself credit for. I think you're just waiting for the ball to drop on you of like, what am I missing? Where am I lacking? And I say, no, walk into that. You know. But the other thing a lot of new grads do is I don't know if it's because we come out young. I did the same thing my first office manager job. Like, we come out young, we come out not knowing our job per se, and we want people to like us because we want to keep a happy team. And I think so we're so scared to hold people accountable because we're afraid that they'll leave or they'll have a bad reputation for us. And so we're real hesitant to put expectations and criteria on people. And I feel that's a big flaw because you set the culture of, do whatever you want. I don't really know. I would rather be your best friend as opposed to your boss. And knowing how to toe the line of being a boss, but also being somebody they enjoy working with. And it was a hard transition for me to figure out.
So how do you get through that? I mean, once you have a good understanding of all these different roles and how different roles play into each other, what makes it easy to then hold people responsible and accountable for their roles?
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that's probably always growing and kind of changing in offices as people come and go.
Right.
Roles probably expand and kind of contract here and there. So what what makes that easy to hold people accountable?
I don't think holding people accountable is super easy. I think it's a lot of follow. Say it that way. No, it's good because
what makes it work?
Right. I think it's more you just set the standard at the beginning. Hey guys, I don't really necessarily know everything I'm supposed to do, but what I do know is I want to check in with each of you to make sure we're on the same page, and we're going to grow. We're going to morph. If we're not growing, we're dying. So we're constantly going to be increasing the ball. We're going to be increasing our goals. But I want to check in with you every single month. So those monthly check-ins that Mark and I talk about a lot, those pieces, because that opens the door of communication, and it also helps you hold them accountable. I think like when I go into new offices, I'm real big on setting up a framework, a structure. So I was just setting up 2 new offices. You're going to see the same thing today, where I go in and it's like, let me give you a skeleton. Like, let's do check-ins. Let's get a morning huddle. Let's do these little things, because those are accountability pieces. So the more accountability pieces you can put in, and tell people, like, I don't want you guessing what your expectations are. So let's build them together, and then let's morph and change. I really think being that leader that's vulnerable, that's willing to say you don't know everything, but hey, I do want to hold you accountable to the things we know right now, and let's grow and morph as you and I both gain more knowledge together. Did that help answer your question? Yeah.
I feel like as I talk to more and more people about this, it seems like it's more about creating a time and place to have the conversation,
sure,
than it is to just be walking around and be like, hey, did you get that done?
Correct.
You're supposed to do that. You know?
Right.
So it's just like, it seems like it's much more the planning piece and controlling your calendar that allows for time to check in and have these conversations.
Right. No, you're exactly right. Because so often, I mean, I was just in an office that I saw almost a year ago, and she said, Kiera, life got busy. And so team evaluations went out the window because that's an area I could slide. Me and doctors' meetings went out the window because we were just so busy. But I found if you take 1 hour of planning and you consistently do that, you move ahead. But we're so apt to forgetting that, and then we become those micromanagers, because all of a sudden the ship is falling apart. We're seeing all these pieces that are broken. That's when you get that micromanagement piece. And I think that's what, as a leader, when you check yourself and you're like, and we haven't had our meetings, we haven't had our check-ins, we haven't had that. But it's a total mind change, because in your mind you think an hour to have a team meeting is so much to be paying for payroll. It's so much to be doing. But I feel like if you're intentional on those meetings, you hold people accountable and you let them know we're having these meetings because we're growing. We're having expectations. We're checking in. Right. But you're absolutely correct. I think it's called purposeful planning as opposed to reactive day to day.
Yeah, I don't know who said it. It was someone on Mark's podcast that it's like people don't plan to fail. They fail to plan.
Ooh, I love that one.
And I feel like that's totally true. And I've experienced that in dental school, because there's definitely been weeks that it's like, wow, I feel behind the entire time, like just constantly on the power play kill. And then, you'll take a Sunday and plan out your week.
Right.
And, like, not only do you get way more done, but it's easier. Like, it's more fun. It's so much easier.
Sure. Totally.
So it does seem like it all comes down to planning. But
as human nature, why don't we do it? Like,
I don't think it is human nature.
Okay, tell me what it is, because this is something I am constantly intrigued by. So I want to hear your thoughts as to, like, why do we do that? If we know planning helps, why do we do that?
I think because it takes so much more intention to sit down and plan things out. And how often does your plan get ruined?
Yeah, that's true.
So I think every time that happens, it's pretty discouraging. But I don't think it's easy. It's one of those things, like, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I picked that one from you.
Did you write that show note?
Yeah, I probably did. But I don't know if there's a thing that makes it easier. I think just as you do it, it gains momentum, and then all of a sudden, if you don't have a plan for the week, or if you're not planned out, you almost don't know what to do.
Sure.
But it's like, if you can let a calendar run your life, if you run the calendar, and then everything just starts to work after that.
I love that. And I think I love what you said on that. And that's something I had not thought of it isn't human nature. I think it's more discipline. It's saying, hey, even though my plans are going to go out the window, or I know these things, if I have a structure and I at least have an idea, I'll be able to, it's just like a morning huddle. Right? If we think about that, morning huddles are meant to set the framework for the day. Morning huddles are meant to build that where you can add more in, where you're going to get behind, where you'll be able to find your hygienist, those different things. That's just like our life. And I never put the correlation of, I preach and preach and preach about morning huddles, but the same thing happens for our lives, and you can get so much more done. You can see where you can add, you can see where you can take away. just by having that pre-planned life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just even at school, we get an hour and a half for lunch, which is unbelievable.
They want you to know that this is not real life dentistry. So, live it up while you can.
Yeah, 4-hour appointments, hour and a half for lunch every day.
No big deal. No big deal. This is not real life, but it's fine.
Yeah, if we're playing Fantasyland, let's just do it with everything. But there's a huge difference there, and it's super obvious. People that come in, they're like, okay, I'm gonna do X over lunch. Get so much more done compared to people that don't have a plan. And you see them like they'll sit around, eat their lunch, talk to their friends, like, oh, it's 1:00. I gotta go. I guess there goes 90 minutes of my day.
Yep.
But that's a ton of time. You can get so much done in that. So if you just have a plan, things just happen.
I agree. We talked about that for meetings. Mark and I, we went to the black belt meeting, coach, and sometimes it's structured, sometimes it's not. And it's always that consistent. When it's structured, when we at least know what we're doing, we get so much more out of our meetings than we do when it's just like, hey, what do you want to talk about? And I think teams, like you were going back to, how do you be that leader? Knowing what you're going to talk about, knowing even if it's just a rough skeleton of an idea, you can get so much more accomplished. And this makes me realize, like, okay, Grady, you're right. I'm going to go home and plan my life, and I want to map out, because
master plan.
I do this silly little planner. It's not silly. One of my good friends, she's actually in. It's funny how everybody comes together. So Monica, her husband's a dentist, and she said, we're about to write practice. I want to take the OM course. So she hopped on Dental A Team. She took the office manager course, learned a ton. Her and I coached every single week through it. We became really good friends. She shared some great ideas with me, and now she's editing the OM course. We've become best friends. Yeah. She's really involved actually in the Dental A Team. But she told me about this planner called the Passion Planner. And she said she loves it because what it does is it forces you to kind of map out your goals for life. And then every single month you revisit your goals. You plan your month out of what it's going to be. And then at the end of the month, you reflect and you see, how was the month? How did it go? Did I hit what I wanted to? Did I miss what I wanted to? And I think it just ties into what you were saying of having a plan, planning your life out, doing those things creates so much more momentum than just being reactive to life.
Yeah, absolutely. And writing down goals, I feel like, is a superpower.
I agree.
I started doing it a year ago, and it is unbelievable that it seems like anything you write down, if it's in a place that you can see it, it just comes true.
Yeah.
I honestly believe that is the key to life. Just writing down goals.
So where do you put your goals? I want to know.
Bathroom mirror.
Bathroom mirror. Gosh, I need to live at home again. It would be so, I'm I got to figure out. But you're right. Those things you see, because it sets a framework for it. So, gosh, Grady, nice thoughts this morning. I feel good.
Planning goals.
I love it. So we're going through what it's like to be a new grad, graduating questions. And I love that you took ownership of this podcast. Hey, these are the questions I want to know. I loved it because normally.
Kiera Dent's ear for a little bit.
I love it.
Slip some of my own questions in there for sure.
Yes, of course. It'll make it fun for Danielle to write these show notes, or maybe I'll just pass these to you, Grady, and you can write these.
I'm happy to do show notes. I still got to do Mark's today. I don't know what's going on
you
his
probably
podcast.
learned so much more than most people listening to podcasts because you actually have to pay attention, real intentional, so you can write them really well.
Yeah, so that's why I asked him if I could do it in the first place. I was I know dental school is going to become a lot, and I'm probably not going to keep up with this stuff, but if it's a job, I have to.
Gosh, Grady.
Keeps me accountable.
You have just every little, tell us a few more, drop some more nuggets for us. What other hacks does Grady have?
That might be it.
The goals on the mirror, the writing show notes for podcasts so you actually pay attention to it, the planning of your time, the putting a mailer out your first year of dental school to start networking for a job. Those are some pretty solid ideas.
I'm out here trying.
Okay, hashtag be like Grady because I want to. So Grady, as always, thank you. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for waking up early. He woke up real early and it's been kind of fun. We're sitting outside the office because we couldn't find a coffee shop this morning. So we're like total creeps in the car with microphones as everyone's pulling into work. So we probably should say goodbye to our listeners. But Grady, thank you so much for joining me this morning and being along this journey with me.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome, guys. All right, Dental A Team, this is Grady. Thanks again, and we'll catch you guys next time. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.